Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Play Some Video Games, the only gaming podcast that promises we will never, ever make you have to get rid of your headphone jack. It is I, your host, Kevin. With us at the big boy table this week is Jason. How are we, Jason?
I graduated from the kids spot.
Yup, you get to sit with the older, cooler cousins now.
Oh, wow. I'm good, though. I am good. It's Friday.
Awesome.
Thank the Lord.
Yes, sir.
This week was rough.
I'm right there with you. But we'll get to that shortly. And we also have this week, of course, Donnie. Donnie, how are you?
Did you just say, yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
What's going on, Internet?
No, greetings, Koopalings?
Greetings, Koopalings!
There we go. And moving along, just kidding. We also have this week, is now dubbed the nicest guy on Play Some Video Games. Kyle, how are we today?
Well, I'm seeing how well these Xbox onesies will dry my PlayStation tears.
The Xbox onesies. Oh, all right then. So that's our lineup for this evening. So let's jump right into it and talk a little bit about what we've been up to this week. And we're going to throw it first to Jason.
Oh, hello. This week, I have this set rotation. I have this daily routine now of, okay, first thing, it's like, okay, I need to get my Nintendo rewards, so I log in and go through the same routine of Matomo, clicking endlessly, answering stupid questions, closing the app, get my coins, move on, rinse, repeat. But then it's like the same day, too. I open up my 3DS. I'm like, okay, got to get my free pick rights, so I play Pokemon Picross, do my pick rights. Maybe after, because I refuse to spend any money on it. After a couple, and it's like, oh, I unlocked a new area, and then I do a few puzzles. I'm like, well, get to do that again in about 3 weeks, and the process repeats. That's the secret to getting good at Picross, Donnie, because you just do the daily training every day forever, and then it gets ingrained into you. But I really like Picross. I did try that that 3D, that demo one for, was it a 3D Picross 2 or whatever. I've never played that before. I don't know if I like it. I prefer the 2D, I guess. Maybe my simple brain can't comprehend all the dimensions. Maybe I don't know.
Would you pay $30 for that?
No, I definitely wouldn't. So
okay,
maybe that's the other part. There's the other reason why I'll never play it. And then I'm in deep in Animal Crossing New Leaf. Here's my question though. Why if it's raining in my town, why must I water my flowers? That doesn't make any sense to me. My flowers will die unless I continue to water them even though it's raining.
Really?
I think so.
I didn't notice that.
Because they don't get the little sparklies. I'm assuming the sparklies are good.
Well, the sparklies are good, but I don't think you have to. They don't always have to be sparkling.
Yeah, I don't even water my flowers. Like if they die, I just rip them up, and like periodically, just new ones show up.
Oh, well,
yeah. You only have to keep the town like prestigious during that initial period where you had to win everybody over.
Oh, so I can let it go to crap now.
Oh yeah, you just let the weeds grow and all that crap.
Just pull the weeds. Yeah, I just pull the weeds. Leave everything else alone. Just pull the weeds.
Well, today was super tedious because I didn't think I logged in yesterday, and so like I swear every tree that could produce fruit had fruit, and I was like, well, I need the bells, and I don't have time to go to the island and try to get a lot of fish. So, because I'm in the process of building a bridge, which is like 100 and something thousand bells, and then I'm paying off my second house loan, which is like 84,000. I'm like. So just go, I don't even know what I'm going to be doing. I think I want to at least get some of their buildings and stuff up, but I mean I'm still having fun with it, so I guess that's the important thing. And plus it's like, oh, this music, it's relaxing, and I can just wander around. I'm like, oh, it's going to be autumn soon, so I can see a season change. And so I do that, and then but the bulk of my week, I'm sure much like you, Kevin, was spent on Juton, the Nordic adventure. I don't know how to describe it. I was immediately excited about this game when I saw it, because it was a Kickstarter, I believe, wasn't it? I think
so. Yeah, I believe so.
And I was like, oh, that looks cool, and I was going to get in on PC, and for whatever reason I had never got around to it. And then I remember being really excited that it was coming to the Wii U, because I think when anytime there's a cool game, I'm just like, oh, I want to play it on the Wii U, because it's not like I'm going to play a first-party game on the Wii U anytime soon. So, but it's just a great game. You know, I wasn't too familiar with what the gameplay would be, but I mean, it just looks great with it's all the hand-drawn animation and everything. But like, I haven't played a game like that that's just like that difficult. Not to the point where it's like so difficultly and aggravating that I don't want to play, but this walked like that fine line where like the bosses are extremely challenging, but there's definitely, you like pick up on patterns and you really learn while playing. And just with the level design was really intuitive too. The devs did a really good job of like teaching you with enemy placement, what few enemies there are in this game, but there'd be, you know, placements of the environment, things like that would teach you a mechanic progressively, and then you would need to fight the boss or this and that. And I routinely found myself having these light bulb moments where like, wait, did I just do that? Okay, now after I die, I'll be able to kill this boss, and then I would die like 10 more times. But like, okay, this time I'm going to kill this boss. And numerous times during the week when I was, you know, playing for a review, I would find myself, okay, I'm just gonna put a half an hour in here. I'm gonna get through this level, and then an hour goes by. I got through those 2 levels. I'm like, okay, well, I can't stop. I got to finish this boss before bed. And then 45 more minutes goes by, rinse and repeat. But great game. Really, I can't recommend enough. It's good. I really enjoyed it. And Valhalla mode will be the death of me, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Oh, you going to try it anyway? I skipped the Valhalla mode, so I guess I'll just go next then. So yeah, Juton was incredible. Like you said, the animation itself was the highlight for me. And it just tied everything in with the soundtrack and the environment, and it was so good. But most of the levels you just kind of explore. You can kind of go at your own pace. There's very minimal enemies that show up during that, except on some stages.
Yeah, I love that though. When they showed up, I'm assuming no spoilers because it's a great experience when you have it. Did you get all the apples?
I think I missed one. I didn't go back and get because I didn't need to per se, I guess. Why, did something different happen if you get them all? Or?
No, I don't think so. But
no, okay.
I'm pretty sure I got them all, but I don't think I got the achievement for it. But I just can't imagine what that game would be like if you didn't, because the apples give, for those not in the know, you get like this golden apple and it increases your life bar by a little bit. And I can't imagine it not having, because you need every little bit of help in some of those fights. So.
Oh yeah, I didn't go crazy looking for them, but once I realized that they were there, because that's the other thing we kind of didn't mention in our review either, was the game doesn't really guide you at all. It just throws you in and you're like, right. Okay, it's a lot of trial and error. The map is pretty vague. It has like symbols on the map, but it doesn't show you technically where you are, so you have to figure that out based on looking at the map. And then the symbols, there's no like legend or key that tells you, okay, this symbol means this. So there was lots of points that I saw a symbol and I was like looking around for something. There was actually nothing there. It was just a point of interest, if you will. Yeah. So that threw me off a bit too, but it was just, I mean, the landscapes and everything, it was such a good game. It was such a good surprise. I wasn't expecting a ton out of it, but once I played it, I enjoyed it, and that did suck up like probably about half of my gaming time this week alone on that. But yeah, it's all about those boss battles. It's enough to not make you rage quit, but if you did get angry and you tried to just start the boss again and just go after it, it was 1,000 times worse if you did that. You really had to kind of think about the patterns, what they do, and take your time in order to take it down. But that was awesome. You could read our full review on the site, and we have a video up on YouTube as well, but definitely recommend that.
What did you score it?
92.
So I read your review, and even reading your review, when I got to the bottom and I saw that score, I was shocked. I mean, you guys know I was all about the game because they did the Nindies event at E3, and more or less because of exactly what Jason said. It was a game coming to Wii U that looked good. You know, I was like, all right, we got nothing else to get excited about. Let's get excited about this.
You're like, this doesn't look like Wind Waker. It can't be that close to 100.
Yeah, so I just expected it to be, you know, a good 7 or 8 game, you know, if it had some sort of narrative and whatnot. And when I read your review, I was like, wow, Kevin really liked it. And then when we were chatting, you told me that Jason also would have put it in that 9-ish range.
Yep.
And I was like, wow. Would this be in your top 15 Wii U games?
Top 15, yes. I know you asked me about top 10. I'm not sure on that. I actually have to like sit down and write it down. But top 15, yes.
I don't know if I've played more than 15 Wii U games.
Well, then you've got plenty to play. Don't tell me you've got nothing to play. You've got plenty to play.
Oh, I've got a Steam library that we don't have time to discuss.
I'm excited to play it. I don't think I'll be getting to it in the next couple of weeks. I did go and look at some other reviews just for some comparative analysis, and I saw two things, and I wanted to ask you guys this as a question. I saw one major detriment across the board was everybody said the game is too short. And then on more than one occasion, I kept seeing the game did not have replayability or replay value. So my reactions to both of those points is I don't think I would ever dock a game for being too short or not having replay value. Now,
for replay value, no. I wouldn't dock it for replay value, but for being too short, I would only if it took away from the story or experience. In this game, it 100% does not. It is a contained story. I couldn't see it going on and on and on.
I think I'm, now that I think about it, I think I probably would dock a game for being too short if it was overpriced.
I was just going to say, Donnie,
sure.
The Order 1886 wishes you had done all of its reviews.
So, like, if you paid $60 and the game was 3 hours, I could see that being a knock.
Oh yeah, I'd be pissed.
But if you were paying $20 and the game is 4 hours, I mean, to me those seemed like those were, I don't know, grasping for straws.
Let me see.
And I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that. I don't think a game owes it to be, replayable.
Yeah.
And I think a game that is replayable is worth mentioning, and that's a credit, that's a pro.
Yeah.
But games aren't required to be replayable.
I logged so far 5 hours total to get through.
I probably did about the same too. Maybe a little bit less, possibly, but it's gonna be pretty close to that. For me, replayability, to dock a game on it really doesn't make sense because there are games that I will play over and over again that nobody else will. So that shouldn't be a factor in a score because it could be a game that has a terrible story, but just because maybe you have fun with it.
Infamous Second Son. That's me in Second Son. It's a terrible story, but I really like playing the game.
Right. It doesn't always matter, but I mean, in the case of like an indie game or a shorter game, like I said, I wouldn't dock it for being too short unless for some reason it felt incomplete or it took away from the story, the fact that the length was short. But in this case, it was perfect. Like I said, I couldn't imagine going on and on and on in the same pattern.
What's it retail for on Wii U?
Ooh, good question.
I am not sure. I want to say I think it's on sale for. I think I saw it was on sale. No, it was on Steam.
Yeah,
I think Steam had a sale for 16 something right now.
No, it's half off right now. You can get it. It's daily deal even. So Steam users out there, you can get it for $7.50 right now.
I was gonna say I want to say I think it's $14.99. That's
and you get the
soundtrack
for $5.
It's $13.49 right now because it's a part of the Nindies through September
the
event,
Nindy deal.
and you get 20% off. I think all purchases if you buy them the first week.
Yep. Yeah. It's definitely worth that. So anybody, if you can still grab it at that price, hands down, get it. You'll enjoy. You should enjoy it.
I think even though like that length, like I've made that comparison before too, where like the length of a game, and I'm like, but like I don't think this game would need to be longer. But it just when I got done with it, I just felt accomplished from getting through it. But then like the story, it just felt perfect in what it's self-contained in what it is, and I think it hit the right notes, and the way. With the music and the experience, it all just has this really good flow, and it just ramps up towards the end. And I felt a really good sense of fulfillment from it. So I didn't.
How much does it beat you up? Let me rephrase that. Do you feel like you have to be a certain level of gamer to get through it, or do you think anybody can get through it if they, put in that extra effort and try hard?
I will say this: the final boss can be a little unforgiving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until I all of a sudden I had this big moment click where one of his particular attacks I learned a different way to avoid it than what I had been doing in the past. And once I discovered that, it got infinitely easier. But like the first boss, I think I died once, and then I got through it. Second boss, I died like 3 times, and then third boss only like once or twice, and then the fourth boss was. I mean, it's you do feel like you're beating your head against the wall a little bit, but not in a painful way. It's more like every time I failed, I felt like I learned something to improve upon in the next step.
Is there like an easy mode?
No. It's all just one. So, gotcha. But I didn't feel like there was like a specific skill set that would have, that you would need to have as a gamer. I mean, to be able to do it. I mean, because there's only 2 attacks, and it's all like timing and pattern recognition is what it really is. It's like learning the patterns of the boss and knowing, how to time your attacks and when to manipulate the environment.
That's a good thing you mentioned, the pattern recognition. So it's almost if you're an old school gamer, you might have a little bit of an edge because you're used to looking for patterns, and you might have a little more patience than a younger kid going in on it nowadays. But yeah, if you're just patient enough and you just pay attention, you should be able to get through the game regardless of your skill level. It's just a matter of how patient and observant you are, really.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so check out the review on the website. Like I said, Jason and I highly recommend it. So grab it now, whether you're on PC or Nintendo, and get it while it's on sale. It is also available on PS4 and Xbox One. I do not think it's on sale there because it's not a promotion for them. But either way, pick it up. It's definitely worth your money. It's fun, short game. Other than that, I've been playing Animal Crossing a little bit, so I feel Jason's pain about bridge payments, and Donnie mentioned his house expansion was 200,000 bells, which mine is right now as well, so I'm right there with you because I started over not that long ago. And then I'm still all in on Fallout 4's Nuka World, so having a ton of fun with that, comparing a lot of different areas to areas of Disney World, as I said in the last podcast. I just completed right before we started. Taking over the Western world, if you will. So I went through basically their equivalent of Thunder Mountain Railroad from Walt Disney World and claimed that for my own. So on to the next part soon, but still having a lot of fun with that, even though a lot of critics are like, well, there's not a lot of enemies in it. It's not true. There are a lot of enemies, but they're all robots or mutated animals, which the Western world actually was pretty hard because there were all these I think they call them bloodworms, but they're more like sandworms from Star Wars. So they just kind of pop out of the ground, but they're much smaller and quicker, so they're kind of hard to get. But so that was a little pain in the butt, but it's fun. It's just you're not hunting humans for once in Fallout or super mutants, so I think some people are kind of disgruntled about that. But as far as the reasoning that you're not is all part of the story that I will not give away any more details on. But if you're a fan of Fallout 4, if you liked it, I recommend it because it's a lot of fun and it adds a huge addition to your map as well. So
how many hours have you put into that game?
Oh, geez. I would have to look, but it's probably nearing the 100-hour mark, I would say. Yeah, dude, I love it.
I'm saying it's gonna look so nice once you put those mods on. It's gonna be great, man.
We'll get to that later.
Winner!
We'll just save it for the news. I will save my salty rage, but that might be Kevin's rant of the week next time, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I can write a whole article. The vein in my head is pulsing right now. So, on that note, Kyle, go ahead. What have you been up to? Taking back that nice guy of the podcast title away from me after that mark.
Nice guy.
I got it. I have to say, you guys, for someone who's never played Animal Crossing, listening to you guys talk about Animal Crossing is one of the most ridiculous things in the world. Like,
it sounds so terrible, doesn't it?
Just listen, I was playing this game and I had to pull some weeds and then I had to pay my mortgage and yeah, it's interesting. I wish I could pay for my mortgage in bells. That would be nice. But so I have been, last time I was on, we talked, I had just jumped a little bit into Deus Ex, and I wasn't totally thrilled with it. I've played it a little more now. I'm probably about 10 hours in or so, and you know what? It's gotten a lot better. I'm enjoying it. The only thing I don't enjoy about Deus Ex, well, kind of two things. Number one, man, I don't like Adam Jensen as a character. It's really hard to play a game when the main character you just are so bored with all the time. So I just, I don't get it. I don't understand him as a character. He's always angry, kind of, but not, and I don't know what his deal is. So the gameplay has...
So he's like me?
Kind of, yeah, actually. I think Kevin...
The main character is me.
He's just really salty about things, but never gets really angry about it. And he'll be having a conversation, and whether he's angry, happy, compassionate, he sounds exactly the same. He just sounds the same all the time. So, from a gameplay perspective, though, things have definitely gotten better. I'm enjoying the missions. I still, with Deus Ex, I kind of get the story, but not really. The game actually makes me feel really dumb when I'm playing it, because I try to follow what's going on in the story, and I can't. I have 90% of the time I have no idea what's going on. The controls are a little weird in this one. I've gotten used to them now, but getting used to those was a little weird because your crouch and your go into cover button where are the two sticks, but one crouches and one goes into cover. So you kind of do the same thing when you click them when you're in the open. So then it's like, well, wait, which one was which again? So that took a little bit getting used to, but once I got the hang of it, it wasn't too bad. So Deus Ex, still working my way through that guy, much better than it was last time. I don't know if maybe it should have gotten some of the super high reviews that it did, at least for me personally, but I am having fun with it. Another game I had the opportunity to play, and the review is up on PlaySomeVideoGames.com, is a little game called Oceanhorn, Monster of the Uncharted Seas.
Yes.
This game actually is a port of I guess, originally came out on iOS back in like 2013. It's been out on Steam, now coming over to PS4 and I believe Xbox One as well. So we got a copy of this for review. Most people liken this game to a Zelda clone, and it is, definitely to a degree. There's definitely a lot of Zelda there, but I'll be honest, I gave it a 78 or a 7.8, and some people were like, oh, that's kind of a low score. It was a good game. Like, I had a lot of fun playing it. Is it perfect? No. There are some issues. You can tell that it's a very small team that made it. You can tell that it's a port of a game that was originally on a mobile system. There's some voice acting in it that isn't super great. I could nitpick a lot of things in the game. But at the end of the day, like, my review's already posted, and when we're done tonight, I'm going to go back and keep playing it. So nice. I quote-unquote beat the game, but I'm pretty close to the Platinum Trophy. I only have about 4 trophies left that I need to do. I have one more fish I have to catch, one more variety of fish. So I have to go back and do that, along with a few other cleanup
Sounds like
things.
Animal Crossing.
I know, right? Along with a few other things. But the game, for the most part, is what you'd expect an action-adventure game to be. You have a story, you're trying to figure out exactly what happened to your father. You're trying to, you live in an area called the Uncharted Seas that's full of all these different islands. So you're sailing from island to island to kind of learn about the Uncharted Seas, what their history is. And then you're trying to find out some information about this mysterious creature named Oceanhorn. So, you have a sword, you have a shield, you get a bow and arrow eventually, and some bombs. You get to fish, obviously. You learn magic. I mean, it's very, very cool. I don't want to say cliche, but it's pretty cliche as far as the stuff that you do. But I just had a really good time when I was playing it. The map layout is interesting. Just with how they lay everything out, it feels very similar to Link to the Past in that depending on the heights of things, that you can tell, oh, I can get here and I can't get there. So when you're jumping down or dropping down, you can tell whether you can fall down this thing or not. The controls were pretty tight. It was a good little time. I really enjoyed it. The story's not the best. The boss fights were a little underwhelming. I only ever died to a boss once. And that was more of my own being stupid because I tried a really dumb technique, but every other boss, a couple of them actually never even hit me. So, but I also am thinking from the point of if you were trying to play this on mobile, where you're like using, the fake D-pads that they do when you put your hands on there, I could see how that'd be far, far more difficult for some of them. But it was a good little game. They're actually making an Oceanhorn 2. They just announced that a little more recently, and I will play it when it comes out because. Did you see
the teaser trailer?
I have not watched the trailer. I just read their blog post that they have about it.
Oceanhorn 2 is very Fable-esque. It's 3D in a 3D world.
Nice.
Third-person action-adventure game. The little trailer that they have is not really a trailer as much as like here's kind of what we're going for, and it's like 20 seconds of concept. But I have questions about this game, Kyle.
Go for it.
So my favorite game of all time is Wind Waker.
Okay.
And this is a Wind Waker ripoff. And I was crazy excited about this game, I want to say more than a year ago. Jason, back me up, because I believe I talked to you about it. Yeah. This game came out on Steam 15 or 18 months ago. It's been a while.
I got it on a Humble Bundle at least 6 months ago, I think. And I think we tried to give away Steam keys via podcast. Is the worst experience ever because nobody wants any.
When I played it first on Steam, one thing you just said makes me really happy because I'm very interested in playing it on PS4. When I played it first on Steam, the control scheme was absolutely horrid. It was really hard to get in and out of the menus and to assign your items and even to walk around with a control pad. It was almost like it was built around a mouse and keyboard, which is not how I play any game, so that could just be on me. Sorry, PC people. But I literally I wouldn't say I bought a PC, but I was interested in PC gaming, and this was one of the games that kind of put me over the edge. I was like, I'm going to play this Oceanhorn game. It's like Wind Waker. And Kyle, you've never played Wind Waker, have you?
I have not.
Yeah, so if you go and just watch 10 minutes of Wind Waker, when I tell you it's a ripoff, it's a complete ripoff, which is not a bad thing. It's my favorite game. It's a complete ripoff. Like, just sailing up to the island and having the little market person come by, like, complete Wind Waker ripoff.
The music, even when you're sailing, sounds very similar to, like, the Great Sea theme.
Which is great, because we haven't had a true Wind Waker sequel, so leave it to them to do it. But I'm really happy to hear that you said the controls were really tight.
Yeah, it was really good, because what they did is that for... on the buttons, you have obviously your sword button, and then you have the top. Your triangle is always your magic spells, and then you use the D-pad up and down to cycle through your magic spells, and then it's just assigned to whatever there. And the circle is all of your extraneous stuff. So it's like your bombs and your bow and arrow and some other things that you get, and you just use the D-pad left and right to cycle through to get to that. So, like, from that standpoint, it was super simple to get a hold of that. Just moving. The camera didn't move a ton. You could use the right stick, obviously, to move the camera, and that didn't move a lot. But it was nothing that was, it was rarely ever an issue. There was very, very rarely a time when I was like, oh, I need to move this around. So it worked really, really well. I was really impressed. And then, obviously, you just hit the option button to bring up your menu, and, yeah, it was really tight. I had no issues with it at all. It was never a concern for me.
How many hours did you put into the main campaign?
Just under 12.
Okay. And my last question is, the Wind Waker formula, they have dungeons, so you sail from island to island, you get items you need, and then you absolutely hit you hit like a dungeon, and you gotta actually crawl through the dungeon and then fight the big boss. Do you do this in Oceanhorn?
So yeah, there are dungeons. They are, obviously you're have played far more Zelda games than I have. I will say that the puzzles and things like that exist in the dungeons, I would say, are quite a bit more straightforward. There was never a puzzle that took me more than 2 attempts probably to figure out. Like, they were really straightforward. Right. So yeah,
that's the Zelda formula.
So yeah, it was. They have the dungeons, they have the puzzles, but it was all pretty straightforward. There was nothing that was too complicated about it.
How many dungeons are there? And my last question, does the dungeon give you access to an item that you didn't previously have that you need to move forward?
I don't, man. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how many dungeons there are, because they're not necessarily like, oh, this is, the water dungeon or something like that.
Okay.
It's much more centered on when you get to the island, you have the above ground stuff that you do, and then once you're done kind of navigating all the things above ground, then you tend to go underground and do whatever you needed to under there. They're not these big labyrinths. Some of them are actually very, very short. So it's not necessarily like I'm getting all my stuff together and I'm going to this dungeon, I'm going to be in there for an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's much more kind of like each island is, in a way, kind of its own dungeon, because you do have to, since, you can't really, you can, at one point you do kind of get the ability to jump a little bit, but since you can't jump for the most part, you kind of have to figure out how am I going to navigate all around this. So it's kind of like the whole island in some ways almost serves as a dungeon in and of itself.
Gotcha. Yep.
How long did each island take then?
It depended. Some of them were extremely short. There was a couple that you can go to that aren't essential to the story, that just if you want to go get some XP. And there's a couple collectibles that they have in the game that you can go there. And I was there for maybe 5 minutes. There were other islands that I was on for a couple hours. So it just depended.
Okay. It's not so bad. All right, then that leaves us with Donnie. What have you been up to, sir?
Well, Kevin, I came prepared for you this week. I actually beat some games.
Hey-o.
And I don't beat games miracle. Often. I really don't. One game I beat, didn't really enjoy it that much. I'm not going to lie. And that's Super Metroid. I have finally, at the age of 29 years young, beaten Super Metroid on my new 3DS.
Nice.
And I can appreciate what it is and what it was. I don't like that game.
Wow. Okay.
It's really hard. It's really
That's how
hard.
old school games were.
Oh God, it's miserable. So I felt like I was making really good progression and time, and I was getting through the game, and then I got to this area where I beat like a boss. He was like on pillars with lava, and then nothing happened, and I didn't know what to do. And I started backtracking and combing over everywhere that I could go, and I may have done that for 4 hours over like a week. This happened last week, and couldn't figure it out. So I go to a guide, only to find out that I didn't go into one tunnel to get a gun to shoot the ground to make this thing fly up that I could jump to the next area. So I used that guide to finish the game, and my biggest takeaway from that is I would have never finished this game on my own. Ever. It just wouldn't have happened. No matter how many times I put into it, I couldn't have gotten through it. There were so many times it was like, just bomb this random area and a door will appear. Or, and I would have never done that. And I get it, back in the day where, the games are made that way, and, it is actually pretty intricate. I'll give them credit for that, but I didn't like it. I just didn't. By the end, I forced myself to finish it. I was like, I want to beat this game at least once. I have to be able to tell people as a Nintendo fan that I've beaten Super Metroid. I've tried to play it a bunch of times and always got caught and never finished it, so I had to finish it, and I did, and I don't like it. I'll never play it again. It's not that it's a terrible game. To be honest with you, it's really pretty for an old school game. And the music is great. I played the entire thing the whole time I played with headphones on, and it was fantastic. But that's probably the best thing to say about it. All the power-ups and everything, it felt padded, like a lot of padding, and then the story was kind of... one thing I didn't like, because I said I used a guide, and I use a guide for a lot of things. The guide has, all the weapons have, all these names, and all the bosses have names, and all these characters have names, and none of that was in the game. And I'm like, who made this stuff up? Did somebody just come by after the game was made and be like, oh, yeah, that's Trevion, or whatever. So none of that was really conveyed to me, and, Metroidvanias, I guess, just aren't my thing. I don't like the whole backtracking and not knowing what to do and, sitting there and grinding and trying until you try to figure it out. I like linear games. They need a little more hand-holding than Super Metroid.
Donnie, the reason there was no names in the game is because back then, games came with instruction manuals, and you had to read them to learn all that history and why you were playing the game and who everyone was. It was a great age. That was a great age of video games.
And in all fairness, Donnie was 7 when this game came out. When I beat it, Donnie was 7 years old. So I was 12 or 13, and Donnie was 7. So,
and I've read those manuals, and I've had guides, and I have Hyrule Historia, and it's easy to do that when you're into it. It's another thing to ask somebody that's not into it. I don't feel like the name of the character is something that you should omit to the manual. It's like they have text in the game. Why can't you just have the text of the enemy or the boss? It felt weird to see that, so many years later after its day and age. Now, having said that, I've beaten Metroid Prime, and I like Metroid Prime way more. So I've been hearing for years people go, we just want Nintendo to make another 2D Metroid. At this point, I don't know if I would agree with that. Now that I've played Super Metroid, I'm like, no.
Did you play Metroid Fusion?
No, but I have it, and that was my...
See, that one actually is my favorite 2D Metroid game.
Okay.
Behind Super Metroid. So that's your next homework assignment.
So that was the thing, is I wanted to beat that. I wanted to beat Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion this year, and having just beaten Super Metroid, I'm now like, I don't think I want to play Metroid Fusion. Is it that much better?
It's more of the same, but I thought it just felt more complete, and it has a little bit of a twist to it. But overall, it's gonna feel the same.
Nope, I'm gonna YouTube that. I'll just YouTube it and watch it, and I'll be good there. The second game that I beat is Dementium Remastered. Do you guys know what this game is?
No.
I've seen the name, but I have no idea what it's about.
So Dementium is a DS game from Renegade Kid, one of my favorite developers on 3DS. Jules Watson, that's the, I want to call him the face. I feel like that's disingenuous. He has a partner. He's just not out there like Jules, so I don't know his name or anything like that. But they work together. Their studio closed last week, and it was a amicable parting. They didn't shut down or anything like that. They both just wanted to go and do different projects. But I think that it is a sad event for fans, because this is the company behind Mutant Mudds and Zeo Drifter, and so just some great titles. And Dementium Remastered is a first-person exploration horror game that has you crawling the hallways of a mental ward. And you get a flashlight, and it's very it's like Outlast, but if it was on a DS. So take Outlast from PS4 launch and then scale it back 8 years, and that's kind of what the game is. And then last year they remastered it and released it for 3DS. So it's got 3DS visuals, new visuals. It looks better. It kind of runs better. The cutscenes aren't in 3D. I bought it. It was on sale. I think I mentioned it on the podcast maybe a month or two ago, 6 weeks or so. I got it for like $5. And like I said, they're such a great developer. I like so many of their games that I wanted to give it a try. And I played it and I beat it. I also used a guide because it does get a little tricky. The boss battle is really hard. The combat, it's one of those games where you feel like you're fighting the mechanic, the gameplay. Like the gameplay is harder than probably what it needs to be just to kind of make the game feel hard. Mm-hmm. Not what I would call, I'm not going to review it or anything, but not what I would call a must play. If you're into those horror games, it's something you could play. I'd probably score it 5 or 6, somewhere in there. It's not bad by any means, but it's not, it's not going to set the world on fire. But I beat 2 games this week, and that is way more than, I usually don't beat 2 games a month. So I beat
Nice.
2 games this week, and I did enjoy it. I'm still playing on that new 3DS Slim that I upgraded to last week, and I've just been putting so much time on that thing. I've been enjoying it. I took a picture of all of my faceplates and put them on Twitter. I've got 5 sets of faceplates now, and I do rotate them almost daily. Like every day I take them to work and I rotate my faceplates because I can't really decide on which one I like most, so I just kind of rotate through the 3 or 4 that I like best. I've also played Animal Crossing New Leaf, as Kevin mentioned. Now, Kevin, you're the resident Animal Crossing expert, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I played them all, so.
I've played the Wii one, and I bought it for my daughter because I thought she'd like it, and she didn't like it, and I played it, and I didn't really like it. And
The Wii one's not that good.
I got into Animal Crossing New Leaf when I got my first 3DS XL, and the first 5 hours or so, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing.
No.
And I say that because maybe 50 or so hours into it now, I still don't really have any idea what I'm doing. It's a weird game that I enjoy playing it, but I really don't feel like I have any purpose, to
Nope.
do what I'm doing. I almost kind of do it just because it's kind of fun. I did just upgrade my house. I think I'm like 40 hours into it. And the last upgrade that I did today cost me 220,000 bells or so. I think it's maybe my 5th one.
Oh.
And I'm to that point now with it where I'm like, what? I don't know why I keep playing it. Like, is there some sort of end game? Is there something that'll eventually happen that'll change up the little rotation?
Nope, not at all.
Nope, nothing. Just
Nope, nothing.
Just keep doing it.
Just you'll get the different seasons, you'll get the different holidays, depending on how far you get in the public works projects you'll open up more stuff in the city.
I think
the
I just got
museum
the shoes.
will eventually evolve. You just got the what?
I think I just got shoes. There's a place next to the Able Sisters.
Kicks.
It's on the right
that should
side.
be Kicks.
Okay, so it looks like
Yeah.
that'll go live tomorrow.
Yeah, he's a skunk. He sells I think socks and shoes technically.
Okay, because I went to a friend's house, man. He had, and I bring this up because I want to maybe encourage Jason if he's getting into it. He had like Mario Kart cars and He had all kinds of stuff. How do you get all this stuff? I don't have any of this stuff.
Those are from the fortune cookies. So you
Really?
need to get your play coins, and you buy the fortune cookies. They cost 2 play coins a day from the Timmy and Tommy Nook shop. And you eat the fortune cookie and you get a fortune inside. You give it back to them, and depending on the number of the fortune you've gotten, you get a Nintendo themed prize. And it's everything from
I've been
Metroid
doing
to
that, but
Zelda
I've been
to Mario
selling
stuff.
it.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean you can, but I keep them all, and I have like a museum in my house.
See,
But
I
then
kind of feel
eventually-
like I just need more money. Like I've been playing the whole thing as I just need more money for some reason.
The quickest way to get money besides farming, if you're able to get fruits from other towns and stuff like that to plant in your village, is hit up the island and just fish for sharks. Run circles around your island, scare off any smaller fish until you see sharks and catch those, and that's the quickest way
Okay.
to earn bells, I think.
So the last thing I've been playing is I started Gears of War Judgment. And I got through the first 3 chapters this week. I wanted to play all the Gears of Wars before 4 came out, and then I started playing Gears of War 1, and I realized how old it was, and the story that it's one of those things that's, I don't remember the story. Like, if you're like, what happened to Gears of War 2? I wouldn't remember it, but when I started playing it again, I was like, oh yeah, this is what happens. Oh yeah, there's not as much here as I thought there was. So I just skipped to the one that I haven't played, and that's Gears of War Judgment. It's not 4 Judgment, it's Gears of War Judgment, which is interesting. It's I wish Q was here. I want to talk to him about it. It's way more action oriented. Like, it's a serious shooter. Like, first mission, you almost play like a horde mode in the campaign. Like, they just put you in this little museum and you have to just defend it against waves of enemies, and there's a timer and everything. So it's way more action oriented. I actually do enjoy it. My wife even came through and she was like, that looks really good. And I was like, really? This game came out like 7 years ago. She's like, it looks great. So I'm gonna beat that hopefully this weekend, if not this weekend, next weekend, before Gears of War 4 comes. And that's it for me. That's what I've been doing.
All right, then. So that wraps it up for what we've been up to. And normally we'd move on to the mailbag, but we kind of have a lot to discuss tonight. So if you sent in your questions, we will get to them next week. We promise we'll spend some extra time answering those. So if you do want to send them in, we encourage you to continue to. You can email us at podcast@playsomevideogames.com. You can message us on Facebook, facebook.com/playsomevideogames, or now you can find us on Twitter at PSVG.
Ooh.
Now you might be asking,
boom,
what happened to the underscore, guys? Well, we finally got our official name on Twitter, thanks to the folks at Twitter actually giving us a little hand there. So we are just now at PSVG. So if you already follow us, it's going to automatically change. No, nothing to worry about. But if you haven't followed us, well, number one, shame on you, because you should be. But if you haven't, look us up at PSVG. You can send us your questions there. But let's move on to the main news for this week. So, we all know that Sony was going to have a press conference this week, and you think that for sure we're going to talk about that, and we will. But prior to that, we're actually going to discuss what happened at Apple's press conference this week. As we all know, they announced the new iPhone, but we've all heard plenty about that, so we're not really going to talk about that. That's not our thing. But, however, in a surprise appearance, Shigeru Miyamoto appeared on stage at Apple's conference to announce Super Mario Run, a game that has been designed specifically for mobile and will come to iOS first this holiday season with a December release. No hard date as of yet. As the name suggests, it's an endless runner game. You go left to right, as always, though it does have a few tweaks. Core mode is a matter of jumping through courses. You tap to jump with the timing impacting the kind of jump you do. A second mode has you battle against the runs set by other players, and a third mode you can create, expand, and customize your Mushroom Kingdom with the coins you collect in the core and competitive modes. The presentation looked pretty much like new Super Mario Bros., which is pretty impressive for a mobile game for sure. The key point, though, it will not be free to play with microtransactions, as a lot of games are, and you'd almost expect Nintendo to do something like this, but it will be a single fixed pricing, but you'll get the entire game for it. There will be an introductory free download available for people to kind of demo the game prior to purchase. No price has been mentioned as of yet. In addition, they are also giving Super Mario stickers for use in iMessage in the next iOS update, hitting Apple devices next week prior to the launch. The game was developed with Mr. Miyamoto as their lead creator. Nintendo also continued a partnership with DENA for the launch of Super Mario Run. Be offered in the App Store this December in more than 100 different countries and in 9 different languages. Super Mario Run represents the next phase of Nintendo's expansion to mobile platforms following the release of Miitomo earlier this year, which, as we all know, took off like lightning in a bottle and then kind of drifted away from there. And Jason and I, at least the two of us, begrudgingly going every day to collect some coins for our My Nintendo rewards that we don't really have a use for yet. But we do it anyway, so they still got us. After the launch of Super Mario Run in December, Nintendo plans to deliver its previously announced mobile titles, Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem, before the end of March 2017, which is different than what they initially said. It was originally supposed to be slated for this fall for those titles, but they appear to have pushed it back to make room for Mario Run, Super Mario Run. So that could hint, I think personally, towards maybe some sort of NX functionality with the Animal Crossing mobile, as that's been rumored to be a launch title, or at least within the launch window for the NX. But yeah, so I'll throw it to you guys and kind of get your input on it. So let's go with Kyle first. What do you think?
Well, I honestly don't have a ton of thoughts about this. I'm excited to see Nintendo trying some new things. I know there are some articles floating around on the web now about how, you know, there have been a vocal, maybe not a large, but a vocal contingent of people, and I'm sometimes in that group, who feel that Nintendo would be best served to just stop making consoles or handhelds and just make games as a third party. And people are saying, hey, you're getting what you asked for. People are like, well, that's not what I meant. But hey, they're making games for other people now. And I have Android. I used to have an Apple phone. I'm an iPhone. I'm now on Android. So I'm a little bummed I won't get to play it day one, but I'll check it out when it comes out. I think it's interesting to see them trying to diversify and do different things. It seems like their mobile things have been pretty successful, at least for a while, and sometimes that's all you need them to be successful for is a little bit. So yeah, I think good move on their part. I think it is nice to do a Mario branded character. I do find it interesting that they're on Apple's stage. Those are just two companies I didn't necessarily see pairing up like that. But yeah, I think I'll be interested to see where this goes. I know Sony has said stuff now about, hey, maybe we're going to get more into the mobile market, even though they had closed like all of their mobile studios. They're now opening them again. But I'll be interested to see kind of how this shakes out, and especially with whatever we see NX being. Is this a short-lived thing they're just doing for this holiday because of there's no NX, so they're going to pair up with Apple, or is this going to be a more long-term thing? I'll be really interested to see down the road what this looks like, and if there will be time exclusivity in the future and things like that.
I agree. And yeah, I forgot to mention, it will definitely be coming to Android. They said in the future they did not give any sort of time frame at all on when, but they did confirm it will be out for Android devices later. So before we go to Donnie, Jason, what do you think?
I haven't even watched the trailer or watched anything for what they've shown of the game. I'm not a big mobile gamer on at least in terms of a phone. I've tried different runners. I'm like, oh, that's fun or something like that, and then I just end up uninstalling it, a little bit later, just because and they never stick with me. I'm usually like, oh, I don't want to give up, sacrifice battery life or things of that nature. But regardless of that, I think this is the first game that Nintendo should have had to come to mobile. Yeah. Instead of Mitomo. I guess Mitomo is a better sense because it's not Mario. Okay, it's not their top IP, so you can get a better sense of how the market, how things are going to fare, because Mario's going to do well. It's just right. And people have wanted Mario on a mobile game variant for such a long time, so I think this is just going to be a home run for them. I think you're going to see the NES Classic and the 3DS really carry Nintendo financially into spring until when we see NX launch. It just makes sense. I'm saddened that we're going to see Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing push back. Until I guess what they're saying, like by 2017, I think is
by March 2017 they'll be out.
So we don't know when that's coming. I was really hoping that Animal Crossing, we were going to get these new updates for New Leaf to coincide with the mobile release, but it just makes, I think Mario does just make more sense, and I think this type of Mario game is the best way to do it. You're not going to want to have to deal with digital D-pads and buttons because that's just
not at all.
It's not a good experience. And it's interesting that pairing up with Apple. But I've read their little press snippets, and I think I guess from that point it does make a little more sense than Microsoft. I guess if they were gonna partner or Sony or anything like that, but. And I guess exclusivity always makes sense too. I feel like something like it always goes this way too. It always goes to Apple first, and then. But again, I believe Miyamoto had said that the reason for that is that Apple's a little more stable, and that does make sense because with going on an Apple platform, it's all the same. While on Android you have all these variants. It's much it's like going PC to console. In a way, you can make that comparison. So I think Nintendo's really gonna benefit from this, and I hope that we're gonna just see them continue to. I don't want to, see them just open the floodgates and have all these different games, and these we're gonna get all this shovelware type games featuring Nintendo characters and things like that, but things like this that make sense. I think it's gonna be good, and it's nothing else. It's creating brand awareness, which is the biggest thing. You know, they're really, yes, we still don't know anything about NX, but really all of a sudden Nintendo is really gotten their name out to people who might have forgotten about them over the years with, you know, Pokemon Go, and then that got spiked their 3DS sales. Now we're throwing Mario out there, and it's, you know, hopefully it's just, I have a feeling it's part of a bigger ongoing marketing plan, and then
it's true.
It's perfect to say, oh, by the way, here's our new system. We want you to go buy it. You love this game. Now you should go buy this. So we'll see.
Yeah, it looks like they're brewing up their own perfect storm here, because like you said, with the other announcements and then the NES Classic, I mean, that the pre-orders for that sold out on Amazon within seconds. So I think they're setting themselves up to be in the positive public view for once. So it's just people still just want to know what the NX is, and that's the last thing right now that's still irking me a little bit right now.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else, I mean, it's been positive, which as a Nintendo fan for the last, well, I mean, I've been a Nintendo fan my whole life, but if you've been a fan with them through these last, I don't know, 5 years or so, it's been tough times, and it's weird seeing people like, oh, this is pretty cool, or people being excited about Mario, and you're like, I haven't seen that since like N64, I think, when people were excited about Mario. So it's good. So lastly, Donnie, sir, you have the floor. What are your thoughts?
I'm really glad that you guys picked up on kind of what I believe is the wave that they're building. The first thing that I thought of, and I've shared this thought before, is I'm really scared for Nintendo to venture into mobile because I fear that they'll find success, which means less of what Donnie likes. Now, the opposite of that is if they find success in the mobile, that's more money for them to make more of what Donnie likes. So there's a balance here. It is bittersweet. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm excited to see Super Mario Run coming to mobile phones. I'm sure I'll play it. I don't know if I'll buy it. I may buy it for my kids. My kids have tablets, and I showed them the trailer, and they were excited for it. But the first thing, I got some notes here. The first thing that I wrote down when I heard the news is Nintendo PR is killing it right now. And that should not be something that is said lightly, because as Jason and Kevin already alluded to, they haven't done a good job in a long time. And I feel, let me ask you this. Here's my first thought. The reaction to this mobile game would have been largely negative had we not had a Nintendo Direct last week that showcased a Mario game coming to your 3DS. True or false?
I'm going to say false, because I think a lot of the people who are not into Mario had no clue that even happened. It was just the Nintendo followers.
Exactly. Now I'm not even speaking to them. I'm speaking to the podcast, the IGNs, the GameSpots, the people that we talk to, listen to, care about. I feel like the gamer reaction, had there been no Nintendo Direct, no Wii U 3DS announcements or anything, had they just popped up at Apple, the reaction would have been Nintendo's bowing out, going smartphone only.
Yeah, yep.
But because they did the 3DS Direct, where they showed off Mario Maker, and because we have Paper Mario coming, and because Miyamoto went on stage and was very deliberate in saying, we're not putting all of our games on mobile, this one makes sense for mobile.
It does.
I feel like it goes a long way. So to wrap that up, last week the Direct happened, and we had Nintendo Life and Nintendo Blogs and IGN and GameSpot and all those people talking about Super Mario Maker coming to 3DS and what they like and what they don't like about it. And then 2 days ago, now we've got CNN and Time Magazine and MSN.com and all of those people going, Nintendo's bringing... So now, all of a sudden, you have everybody paying attention to Nintendo in one way or the other. They have targeted their hardcore base, and they've targeted their casual market. Now, Kyle, you said you didn't think Apple and Nintendo would ever be on stage together. You didn't think that seemed likely or a match. I would disagree with that. These two companies chase the exact same consumer. There's a thing that separates Nintendo from the other companies in the gaming industry is that they target everyone. They're a mass market appeal company. And by going on stage at the Apple event, because Apple brought all of the viewers, they brought all the eyes, and Nintendo just provided the sizzle. I don't think anybody ever thought Miyamoto would ever be on stage in an Apple event.
No.
Right? Like, that was, I remember, unfortunately, we had a live chat during the PlayStation 4 meeting, which we'll get into, and we were preparing all day for that. And when it hit Twitter that Miyamoto was on. I was in a meeting and really couldn't participate in the site, and I felt like I was in a cage. I was like, "You've got to be kidding me! I'm so busy at work. Miyamoto's on stage at Apple. What the hell is going on right now?"
Yeah, thanks to Nathan for keeping us in the loop on that, because I don't think any of us were paying any attention except for him, and he told us, and I thought he was joking, and I hopped on Twitter real quick, and it had blown up, so I was like, wow, okay, and he just gave us the play-by-play after that.
So I feel like they're priming the system for the NX reveal. That's the overall sense. I feel like this has all been calculated, and I tip my hat to them. I think the NES Classic, I think they've lined all this up literally to hit beats to get the people's attention. So next week or 3 weeks from now, it's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, when they have a direct or press conference or however the hell they decide to do it, when they say, we are going to show you our next piece of hardware, they're going to have more eyes on them than they would have before these things happened. And I tip my hat to them for that, because it's been a while, it's been a long time since Nintendo has operated like they knew what they were doing. And I feel like they are controlling the message right now. Some of the other things that I wrote down. They're not the first person to do this. PlayStation has mobile games. They've got Uncharted games. They have a game that's very similar to Super Mario Run called Run Sackboy Run. And I have it on my Vita, and I've played it on my phone. Funny thing is, the thing that I've mentioned when all of our NX discussions on our Nintendo Shack episodes is I've long time felt like Nintendo was going to blur the line between the mobile market with NX. I kind of felt like that was kind of what NX was. It was stepping away from traditional console and kind of going more, here's your mobile phone and here is your NX console, and they talk to each other. And Miyamoto kind of alluded to that. He did an interview with Time magazine where he said, in years past, a decade ago, Nintendo was, we had devices that appealed to the masses and that have more or less been replaced by smartphones. And it's time for us to kind of earn some of that attention. And I feel like that kind of goes towards those theories that I've had before. The difference being is, the mobile market's it's a hard one to bust into because it's so flooded. Run Sackboy Run didn't even get downloaded 500,000 times across both stores. So it's less than 500,000. You've got Pokemon Go's been downloaded 500 million times. And a lot of the reports coming out are saying that Mario could possibly be the first mobile app to ever be downloaded 1 billion times. And I actually think that's pretty plausible. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. I mean, Mario is the face of the franchise of video games, not even just Nintendo. He's the face of video gaming. So, this is where, when I've brought up in our past episodes, this is where Nintendo's IP really sets them apart. Where they have an IP like Mario. And Jason, I also disagree that they shouldn't have launched with this. Launching with Miitomo allowed them to get My Nintendo set up, which I believe will be baked into an NX and will help tie this whole mobile NX thing together.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, so I mean, the way it works now, I honestly don't even think it's a hope. I just think it's a given. I mean, look at it. The thing knows when you log into their store. Not even when you buy a game. It knows when you log in. It's like, go check the store. And if you log into Miiverse, you get points for it. It knows when you just go log in. So I think Miitomo played a part in getting their infrastructure right. Everything was kind of built around getting that set standard, and now they're ready to start priming that engine with stuff and bringing people in. And Pokemon Go was the first one, and now we have Mario, and Mario's going to be huge. They also talked about Amiibo support in the Time magazine, saying, hey, we're also considering selling an accessory that communicate with your smartphone to allow for Amiibo support. So even if you don't get the NX, they're looking at, hey, we're going to make money. We can sell Amiibo to people that play, Super Mario Run and Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem and whatever 3DS game or whatever mobile game comes out, that's cross-play or connected to NX or whatever. And there's a lot of things here that I like. And I don't want to sit here and just talk about it forever because I know we're running really long, Kevin. But, there's just a lot of things here that I think if you scratch beneath the surface, I at least take a lot from it. I'm like, for a long time I think I've sounded overly hopeful that I felt for the last 6 months or so that Nintendo's changing the course of how they operate. And I think this is a huge, at least being in that counter for me, that proves it. They don't look like they're operating like the same Nintendo. 6 years ago, they more or less came out and said they hated mobile games and it was ruining the market and it was driving the price of games down and everything. And now it looks like they're embracing it. And I feel like it's because they have to. I want to give them credit for that. I do feel like it's because they have to. They're being forced to do so. But I think they're doing it the right way. And I think they do deserve to get credit for that.
You know what's interesting, Donnie, is that I agree with almost everything you just said. None of that makes me in any way, shape, or form excited for the NX.
Sure, and you know what? I think that's okay, and I think that's a part of this. I think that's a part of this. They're saying, hey, we've lost some of this customer, but if we do this, we can get some new customer, and you know what? Maybe if we do it really well, maybe we can get some of that customer back. I actually think that's okay, and I think that's that's the whole plan here. Is, you know what? I mean, I'm starting to wonder if franchises like Mario, like let's say Super Mario Maker for NX comes out and you just get Super Mario Run for free. I'm starting to wonder if this whole kind of cross strategy that they're having is going to be like the what was the thought I thought of the other day? You remember when the second screen experience was big? It was like 3 or 4 E3s ago where every game came out with an app.
Yep.
I'm starting to wonder if that may be the thing that Nintendo's like doubling down on. So, I don't know. Just some theories, some deeper thoughts that I want to provide to the conversation other than saying it's good. The game itself, I don't think looks all that great. It's interesting that Mario, you can jump on enemies, but it's also interesting that you can like leapfrog them. Did you see that? Yeah. You can like leapfrog and kind of go over them. I also read that you don't have to just run in one constant motion, that by using his jumps against certain obstacles, you can actually run the other way, which should really aid them in puzzling and platforming. My biggest concern when I saw it was the exploration of the Mario game doesn't really allude to it being on rails. You're not going to be able to find the cloud worlds and the hidden items and stuff. But in the Time magazine article, they said, oh, that's there. So who knows?
Yeah, I did see, too, that USA Today also mentioned, actually it was today, that Nintendo stole the show from Apple with their announcements, which, Apple did it deliberately. They did the right place, right people in place for that move. But
they get all the credit. People are buying iPhones now.
Exactly, and it's funny because a vast majority, not everything, but a majority of the press that's out about the whole iPhone has been pretty negative, between the headphones, the Bluetooth earbuds that they're going to be charging for, the loss of the headphone jack, and it still kind of looks the same and functions the same way. Everyone's talking about positive, though, is, hey, Nintendo is doing this with them now. So it's just kind of weird that a move that Apple had done deliberately to gain more attention, it didn't backfire per se, but it's got people talking more about Nintendo than necessarily their products. But
I wrote it down, and I'm sorry, I wanted to get this in there. Then Miyamoto made a strong point to hint that this is a veteran team making a mobile game. This isn't DNA. This is internal Nintendo. It's not all EAD, but it's led up by Miyamoto himself. He said, no, I have, as the creative fellow of Nintendo, I have free reign to do what I want to do, and I wanted to be in on this. And he even said, and the one thing that actually, it made me really hopeful and optimistic of how they can kind of tiptoe, around this little line going forward. He said, we wanted to make a simple Mario game for people that don't play Mario games. So, Jason, if you're like me, Kyle, if you're like me, if this game doesn't get you, you look at it and you're like, oh, it's Mario, and, it's a touchscreen Mario and just tap to win Mario. It is, and it's not meant for you. You know what that makes me think of? That means they've got a Mario that's meant for us too. But they have a Mario, this is going to be great for brand awareness, as Jason alluded to. And finally, they're going to start getting their stuff back in front of kids, which is what Nintendo has been missing for years.
All right, so to move on to the second half of Nintendo news to come out of the Apple press conference, Niantic is bringing Pokemon Go to the Apple Watch by the end of the year. Pokemon trainers using the standard Pokemon Go app need to walk in order to hatch their eggs. Well, from a complication on the new watch face, they'll be able to see how far they need to walk to hatch eggs. Normally, you had to go into the app and go into the incubator and see how far you had to go. The Apple Watch will now display that for you. The main screen on the Watch app will show the trainer's current level as well as the XP needed to get to the next level. All of your walks are recorded as workouts, helping players progress towards their activity goals. Looks like they'll be able to end and resume their workout activity within the new Watch app, too, without even having to take their phone out. While walking, players can see how far they've walked and their calories burned, similar to like the Apple built-in fitness function, but tied into Pokemon Go. And they can also see at a glance which Pokemon are nearby. They will be alerted when Pokemon appear, but they will still need to take out their iPhones in order to actually catch them and throw the ball. So that function is not on the watch, which would have been really hard anyway. But you'll at least know when, hey, I should pull my phone out, or hey, there's a Charizard nearby. When players reach a Pokestop, there will be a buzz on the wrist that will let you know. They'll see image of the location as well as the information about the place, such as historical value and stuff they always put on there. And you'll be able to collect the items just by swiping the watch screen. So that function will be there without having to take your phone out. They will also get alerts for achievements that are obtained throughout Pokemon Go when you collect a certain amount of, certain type of Pokemon, or you walk a certain amount of distance or hatch this number of eggs. That'll alert you right on the wrist as well. They'll get alerts when their eggs are hatching too, and it'll show the whole animation of the egg hatching as well as Pokemon coming out from the watch. And after ending any workout, players will see a summary screen of all their activity, including total distance, time, and active calories, and they'll also see all the items and Pokemon they've captured and collected along the way. So overall, nothing really earth-shattering. It's just bringing more functionality to the Apple Watch, but they're utilizing Pokemon Go to help probably push more Apple Watch sales. While it hasn't been a failure for them per se, Apple has struggled, as well as everybody else for that matter, to really find a niche in the smartwatch market. A lot of consumers don't quite see the value in it as of yet. High pricing, not a lot of functionality. People are just happy with their Fitbits and stuff like that too. So Apple trying to once again use Nintendo-esque products to help push their products further when they come out. So I don't really have much else to say other than that. It seems kind of cool. Nothing I wouldn't have expected them to probably do by now anyway. But it's nice to see that they're still using Pokemon Go as the game continues to evolve and change with the updates. It may get some Apple people to pick up the watch as well. I know down the line I'm sure it's going to go to Samsung as well, and I know a lot of times Samsung will throw in the watch for either a big discount or for free when you upgrade your phone. So that might be a more value added prop for Samsung versus Apple, but only time will tell. So let's go with Kyle first this time. Any thoughts?
So I only know one person who owns an Apple Watch. It happens to be our honorary only female listener, Linda. And we were actually talking about, the day after the Apple press conference, she was talking about the new Apple Watch and how excited she was for it because it actually had GPS, so she was very stoked about it, actually. So I said, yeah, and then you can play Pokemon Go on it, too. And she looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. So that is my feedback. Apparently, I don't know how much the Apple Watch crowd and the Pokemon Go crowd overlap. Maybe this will overlap it more, I guess. But that, from my very minimal knowledge, I don't know how much that crowd overlaps.
Yeah, I agree. Donnie, any thoughts on it?
Of everybody on the staff, I think I'm probably the most critical of Pokemon Go. My boss has an Apple Watch. He's actually most upset that the Apple Watch just got so cheap. Apparently he paid a lot more money. I don't know how much they cost, but yeah, I mean, if people are excited about it, I mean, that's great. I don't really have any thoughts on it either way. I don't play Pokemon Go, so.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, well, maybe Mo and Q still do.
Well, I just hope it encourages people to buy and play core Pokemon games. That's probably my only
Right, brand awareness once again. Common theme as we talked about. Yeah, I don't know anybody that still plays either except for possibly Mo and Q. Might be the only two people left still playing. But yeah, I might go back to it if they make some enhancements and changes, but as of right now, it's been off my phone, so it doesn't really excite me. It's just something I would have expected to be natural progression for the technology. Jason, any input?
Snorefest.
Figured.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm just not into Pokemon Go, so I mean, that's good for the people that are into it. You got more stuff to enjoy it. So it's not for me. Just not for me. That's it.
Yep, I figured. It's a very much more expensive version of the Pokemon Go wrist thing when you really boil it down.
Right.
That yeah, you can do some swiping from the actual wrist thing, but you're looking at something. What does the Pokemon Go Plus go for? Was it $20 or something? 20, maybe 30. But the Apple Watch goes for $300. So we shall see. But anyway, it's kind of cool. They're pushing technology forward, so good on them. But doesn't really do anything for the staff here at PSVG. So we'll move on to the other half of the coin here and talk about Sony's press conference, which we were probably more excited about prior to seeing it. but we'll get our thoughts on that afterwards. We were all anticipating this. Personally, for me, the conference overall was a little dry. This was definitely meant for the press versus the fans or the industry, a la like an E3 conference. It was just kind of very dry in their delivery. The audience really wasn't into it, which was a little awkward at moments. But let's break down the two big announcements. So, unlike Microsoft's compact console offering the Xbox One S, the new smaller, slimmer, less glossy PS4 does not support 4K resolution. That's probably the biggest news. Doesn't have a 4K Blu-ray player, nor does it feature slightly faster graphics, graphic processing than its current iteration. Instead, the new PS4 is much like the PS3 Slim, just a leaner version of the existing console. Overall, that's really not a bad thing. When it goes on sale, September 15th is the launch. 500 gig version of the new PS4, so they're not calling it the Slim. This is replacing the PS4. Will retail for $300. So it means pretty much overall that the new PS4 costs the same as the old one. And some features have been cut despite lack of price reduction. So it looks like Sony's just looking to make a couple extra bucks out of each product overall, I think. They removed the light bar from the actual console and changed it to a matte plastic finish. So for some people that are more conscious about what their console looks like, yeah, it won't have the fingerprints on the glossy parts like mine does currently right now. I think I would miss the light bar though, because I do like knowing when my PS4 is actually off. The light goes off, or if it's in standby, it turns to orange. When it's playing, it's blue. Without having that, I think it'd be a little weird. The overall aesthetic, it just the sharp angular corners that the old one has, it's been switched off for softer, rounded edges on them. The biggest change, I think, as far as the physicality of the console is they did ditch the touch buttons and replace them with physical buttons. Which makes it a little bit better to work. I know sometimes I have a hard time, unless I just turn my PlayStation off from my remote, which is what I do most of the time. I don't even bother trying to touch the PS4 front to get it to turn on or eject. But yeah, they put physical buttons in there, so that's a nice point there. They did separate the USB ports on the front used for charging the consoles. Might seem a little weird at first, but when you think about it, some people have the USB cords that have like fat ends on it. On the actual original PS4, if you put two plugged in together, if you had a different type of cord, you actually might not be able to plug them both in. Separating makes it a little bit easier for that. Around the back, the optical port has been removed, so I know some people are upset about that, as well as all the venting. Just because there was tons of vents on the PS4 currently. If you look around the edges, it's basically all open to allow hot air to come out. But testing has said that it is a little bit quieter, the new PS4 than the old one is, but only when you're playing downloaded games that don't use the actual Blu-ray drive in it. If you are using the drive, they actually say it's actually noticeably noisier than the original PS4. Has like a mild humming sound. So I don't know if they're going to address that prior to it coming out, but I don't really think they can at this point. But everything else is pretty much the same on there. The back has the Ethernet cord, HDMI 1.4, auxiliary for the PlayStation camera, which you'll have to use in order to use PlayStation VR, of course, and the same power adapter there. So if a lot of people were at first worried that the slimmer console wouldn't allow for a replaceable hard drive, but it actually is easy to remove the hard drive. There's just a plastic piece that you can remove that has a standard SATA hard drive. You just undo a single screw and you can pull the drive out completely. So will come with the HDMI cable, but it's also just kind of the same one that came with the original one, as well as the headphones again, which are pretty crappy. Micro USB cable, power cable, and an updated DualShock 4 controller. Controller hasn't been changed too much. The D-pad and analog sticks have been given a gray color instead of the black, with a different texture, making it a little bit more rubbery, I guess is the word, which is easier to grip, and the light from the light bar now shines through the top of the touchpad, which is a little weird to me, so I'm not sure how that's going to work or would feel any different, but they're saying the overall weight and feel of the control is pretty much the same as the old DualShock 4, so there's not really any reason to run out and get a new controller for your console. Overall, they're saying it's not really that much different, doesn't run any cooler, it's about the same as the current one in there. But to be fair, everyone's talking about comparing it to the Microsoft one. Sony didn't have a lot to fix with their console, whereas Microsoft did have some things they needed to address in comparison to the PS4. PS4 was already pretty much I don't want to say flawless, but it had everything in there. So the new PS4 isn't really a big design change, and it's not really a drastic cost-cutting measure like the PS3 Super Slim model was. They made a ton of money off those compared to the bigger, chunkier models. But with this one, they're really not a huge difference. So pretty much if you're not already an owner of a PS4, then this is a good buy for you. You don't need to run out and get the launch PS4 first. Overall, it's completely fine. But if you're an existing owner, I would say just wait, and if you're interested in it, then get the PS4 Pro, which we'll talk about shortly. But not a huge change overall. However, I will tell you, the more and more pictures I see of it now, not the leaked pictures prior, I actually don't hate the design as much as I did initially when I first saw it. I thought it seemed very odd. But now seeing it from all angles and stuff with all the reports that have come out since the press conference, I'm a bigger fan now of what they've done with the design there. So I'm cool with it, but if you're already an owner, there's no need to pick it up. But if you're not, then this is a cheaper, maybe better designed, maybe with air quotes around it, version option for you. But that's just me. Jason, what do you think?
It's fun when I can actually take the time to pay attention and watch the conference or announcements that I have no stakes in, because then I'm not I have no expectations, so I'm not I'm used to watching these things and be like ugh afterwards. So it's nice to come in from that blind eye. I mean, going
open mind,
going right out off the gate. I'm surprised. I'm surprised that this is going to be the base model. Yeah. I didn't see that coming. I thought maybe they would keep the PS4 that we know still out, and then we'd have this model, and then we'd have the Pro. But I think that they're trying to go. Companies are trying to be greener, have smaller footprints and things like that. So this is more. It's a smaller console, but the power consumption's better, things like that. So I get it, and. I kind of agree with you too, Kevin. I like those first images. I guess I was like, ugh, that's kind of funky looking. But then now you see it again, I'm like, it's all right. But they have. I do like how they've got this uniform look for what the PS4 is. We had the first, the initial console, and then we got this one that's just the one tier, and then of course the Pro. It's like those three pieces stacked together.
3 tiers. Yeah.
They're parts of the monolith from 2001, maybe in the Space Odyssey put together. I don't know, but the thing is, the most notable thing I had about this conference is I do not ever want to watch another press only event, because he got this announcement, and we're used to E3 or things like that, and everyone's like, oh my god, yeah! And then he's like, this is the PS4 Pro. We don't even get that. You hear some typing maybe, or some. I mean, the most reaction we got from this is when the guy from where was he?
Is he muted?
Yes, that.
His microphone's on.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't have a microphone.
That was the biggest reaction we had during this. So it really just takes away from everything. It's like I didn't know how much I would miss that until I saw this. I'm like, oh, okay. And when you're for the people that are there live, they can take in the whole event. But for us online, it's like, and here's this amazing new 4K ultra high definition. But we're looking at it through crappy streaming stuff, so it's like, yeah. But hey, it was still cool to see, and we got to see. I'm not heavily invested in Mass Effect, but we finally saw Mass Effect footage, so that was cool. I mean, and they announced some games. Except here's the downside through all this, though. Immediately, it started at E3 when these consoles were launched. We've had the back and forth, but immediately after, they've talked about the 4K and everything, and then it's like, oh well, it's not going to support 4K Blu-ray. And now we've got the Xbox. People are like, oh, we can do 4K, we can do this, and it's just like, we just have to we have to always do these things. But I don't. Or of course they're immediately to now. Well, or the Xbox is going to be more powerful than the PS Pro. I mean, it's not even a competition now. I mean, it's like, you guys, come on. Let's not be like that. We can't just have things.
Can't we all
we
just
can't
get
just
along?
have our things and be happy that we have our things. But here's the good thing is, there's options now for people. If you didn't have a PlayStation, now you've got your choice. Like, oh, do I want pay $300 and I can get this one that's nice and tiny and I'll fit over here, or I need everything that I can get. I need to get the Pro. It's cool to have that, and I'm glad that all games are going to be supported on both. So that's nice. I do like what they're like seeing everything that they're talking about. What is the because my brain it does not work. The type of the image fidelity. What was the actual
HDR?
Oh, we're gonna talk about that when we get to the Pro. So
okay,
we're gonna
So,
pause that. Just the Slim
you
for
let
now.
me
We'll get
let
to
me
the Pro.
jump the whole gun here, huh? A little bit.
Well, you weren't getting too crazy until you started getting into specs.
So I mean that's the thing that I thought was really cool, because I didn't know much about anything about that technology. So getting to see, like, being able to say, okay, here's this image, this is what it looks like with that. I was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Because for me, 4K doesn't really excite me at all, because by the time that 4K would ever be affordable for me, it will have like 10K out. So. But, I think that's in summation that covers my thoughts.
All right, then. So, moving on from Jason, then. Donnie, what were your thoughts of the PS4 Slim, or actually just the PS4, then?
I've already shared a lot of my thoughts on the PS4 Slim. I don't like the design. I don't like the rounded edges, and I don't like the little stack thing they're doing. That aside, it's not as incremental as I thought it was. I believe its teraflop rate, for whatever it's worth, is more than doubled.
You said teraflop.
Yeah, even if I'm still not 100% clear on what that means in terms of the finished product.
It's the best
I didn't really
buzzword.
get that out of it. I see comparison charts, and they're like, it's better and all that. But I don't really know what that means for us, and like, fidelity. If I was to upgrade my base PS4 to the Slim model, I still think the PS4 base model, the OG, is the more attractive box if you care about that thing. If you're locking it in a cabinet, you don't. If it's out on your living room floor, I think you do. I do. I care about it. I have more things to say about the Neo, but I want to throw it to Kyle. But before I do want to say this really should have probably been like a YouTube video that they released on PlayStation Blog. This is the whole Nintendo Direct argument, where, if you're at E3, you don't have the giant fan reaction, but you know what? If you're doing something like this, you don't have... I thought it was awkward. And I only really caught maybe 60% of the back half of the thing. I came in when Cerny was talking and watched through the rest because I was at work, and I thought the whole thing appeared odd. It was kind of... I don't want to... I want to say it was like some kind of weird strip club scene or something. It just like the whole thing just felt kind of weird and odd, and it was silent. But they had pauses, like they felt like they were going to get a reaction, and then they just kind of moved on without one. And so I will say that I think overall the event could have been better handled than the live press showing. But I want to throw it to Kyle. Let Kyle give his thoughts on the Slim. Take us into the Neo, because I do have some thoughts on the Neo.
I will say, Donnie, though, just to correct what you were saying a little bit, that the Slim is no more powerful than the current PS4.
Okay. So I just read that wrong then.
You were
thank
talking
you.
about the Neo.
Gotcha.
So
the Pro. I should correct
the
my
Pro.
statements.
Sorry.
The
Yeah,
Pro.
I don't have a lot of thoughts on this. I do think it is interesting. I was hoping for a $249 price point, only because the OG one was $349 until right before this. Now every place pretty much has it on sale for $299. The thing that's interesting, though, is that if you go to like GameStop right now, they have get the current PS4 for $299, but launching September 15th is the PS4 Slim with Uncharted 4 for $299. So I'm not sure why you would buy the current PS4 at all, period, in any way, shape, or form, when there is a standard bundle that's going to be out there with Uncharted 4 for $299. It just doesn't make any sense that they reduce the old ones to that, but they're going to be selling the new Slim with a bundle at the same price. Losing the optical out is a bummer. I don't, in my current setup, use the optical out at all. I did in my previous iteration of consoles and things, but I mean, I feel like we're kind of getting to old OG Sony here, who's making mistake after mistake again. But I got to assume they had the data that just showed that those weren't used, or at least used in a way that they thought they were. The other thing that I think is interesting is that since PS4 was released, they have sold every single PS4 at a profit. My guess would be they wanted to continue that trend, so getting rid of that optical out was just one way they could ensure at this price point that they are still making a profit. I can't imagine Microsoft is making money on the S. Maybe they are, and if they are, they've cut some sweet deals. I can't imagine that they're making money on that thing. And Sony, PlayStation is doing great. Sony as a company is not doing well. So I think that, again, total speculation. I don't know, maybe if there were powers beyond them that were like, you have to continue to make money on everything. I think it is a bummer to remove a feature, but I do think overall, for the vast majority of people, that's not going to matter. So yeah, I think the console looks fine. It's a good price. It's hard to go smaller than what it was. It's hard to go sleeker than what it was. They didn't have a power brick and things like that to get rid of. So yeah, it's fine. It's, like I said, I think if you don't have one yet, A, you're probably not listening to this podcast, but B, it seems like you should just wait for that $299 bundle, because there's really not a reason to buy the current PS4 right now.
No, not at all. So, all right, so we'll move on to the more exciting news, I guess, this press conference, you could say. But as Jason noted, and Delaney said the same thing, the reaction just wasn't there. It's, I mean, even with the press, you'd think your Sony would at least plant some people in the audience or something to pretend that they're excited, but I don't know. So they did announce the next PS4. It's not intended to replace the console. Instead, it's an upgraded tier of console that is designed to play the same games as the existing PS4, but at a higher fidelity, meaning with 4K resolutions and HDR or high dynamic range, if you're not familiar with that terminology. Confirming pretty much all the rumors reported back in March, starting as early as March. Sports an improved CPU, GPU, and greater memory bandwidth from its predecessors. Will launch on November 10th, priced at $399, so only $100 more. Will have a 1 terabyte hard drive and will ship with PS4 Pro. Will ship with the consoles, which looks pretty much the same as the existing PS4, not the Slim. But as Jason mentioned, with the third wedge in its addition to its width. So I've seen quite a few people on the internet dub it the hamburger PS4. So that works.
Burger.
They introduced a bunch of 4K footage of Pro-compatible games launching in the future. For Honor, Spider-Man. They showed some Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Mass Effect, as Jason touched on. But basically, they're using a mix of boosted core resolutions and anti-aliasing techniques to display current PS4 games at a higher fidelity, which means technically it's not a true full boost of 4K resolution for games on newer hardware. But it's just like the 4K compatible Xbox One S. The PS4 Pro will also receive updated Netflix app that supports 4K and HDR content streaming. They also confirmed that the console will get a 4K compatible YouTube app as well, for what that's worth. But if you're looking for 4K Blu-ray, it will not support that disc built in. So while HDR and 4K boosts led off the presentation, they made it clear that with standard HD TV sets, you would still see boosts. Developers are free to tailor the experience to best fit the type of TV you use. When describing boosts for TVs are only capable of 1080p as the max. Third-party games like Paragon and Shadow of Mordor were also shown with greater visual boosts, with greater detail in an average gameplay scene. They dubbed this new term that Nathan was laughing at, calling it forward compatibility, which will be coming to over half dozen first-party titles and quite a few from the third-party developers as well down the line. So games that are already out will be getting patches to upscale them basically to 4K on the PS4 Pro. Upcoming PlayStation VR games will also see the boost when playing on the Pro. Elements such as pixel count and world detail can be boosted by PSVR games that support the PS Pro compatibility. For the highly discriminating gamers, they quoted, there's room for advancement, but they want it in this generation. So they're excited about 4K and high dynamic range for those reasons. They also announced that a patch would be coming to all existing PS4s that will also upscale some of the graphics. Not to 4K, but will give it a big boost. As part of the event, third-party support announcements, Activision came out and said that pro compatibility will be coming for Infinite Warfare, which was expected once they started talking, as well as the Modern Warfare remaster, and a forward compatibility patch coming to last year's Black Ops 3 as well. So, my thoughts on this overall, if you have a 4K TV for an extra $100, okay, I can see it. The press conference certainly did not do the footage justice from everything I've heard. Talking to people that have seen the 4K footage on a 4K device already say it is a huge difference in how the games look and run. But if you were watching the press conference, you don't really necessarily get that. Things did look better, do not get me wrong, but they didn't look, I'm going to go out and buy a new console better. But if you have a 4K TV and it's going to look that much better, then I think it's probably personally worth it. I won't be rushing out. I don't have a 4K TV. I have no plans in purchasing a 4K TV anytime in the foreseeable future. So not that exciting for me. Does it make sense for Sony? Sure. Is it going to be able to compete with Scorpio? From everything we're hearing, no, not really. But once again, Sony didn't need to have to do that. And I think by doing this half step in capabilities, you can call it, will allow games to continue to be able to be played on both PS4 and PS4 Pro, whereas I predict with the Scorpio, they will start off that way, but as people push games to work harder and harder and harder, you're going to see some games that will come pretty much quote-unquote broken on a regular Xbox One, but will work on a Scorpio or whatever they end up calling it, much like we've seen with some of the 3DS games that come out that don't really work on a standard 3DS, but on a new 3DS because the extra power runs a lot better. I feel as a gamer, that would irritate me a heck of a lot more if I had that option, but it sounds like with this move at least, Sony is ensuring that the content coming out will be playable on both until something else pops up down the line, because it's boosting the graphics, but it's all doing it in the software side, not on the actual hardware side. So that's my thoughts on it. Is it cool overall? I think so. Press conference was kind of a bummer overall in the presentation of it. But it was interesting to see what they finally came out with and discussed a little bit. Not super excited for me. I will not be purchasing it, but it's still kind of cool to see. Donnie, what do you think?
So I don't think it's safe or fair to say that it won't compete with Scorpio. It's doing 4K, even if it's boosting it up. It will compete with it, just like the original Xbox One competed with the PlayStation 4. The PlayStation 4 boosted out, a more native, higher resolution natively, but the Xbox One boosted out that same resolution even if it was upscaled. I don't like the arms race that both these companies are in. I don't like that I feel like I'm having to pay for it every 3 years. We've had these discussions on iterative hardware for a long time. I'm not planning on buying a 4K TV at all. I just bought a TV. Everybody on our staff knows that I bought a TV like last month. I bought a Roku smart TV. And watching this, I kept hearing 4K, 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 4K. So I started doing some research. Now, what I'm about to tell you, I'm not vouching for it. I don't even know if it's true anymore, but it came out this year. It's from a website that actually has some weight to it. It's from BusinessInsider.com. And they say 4K capable TVs will be in 10% of all North American households by the year of 2018, and that number is expected to reach 50% by the end of 2024. That doesn't sound like the next big wave of televisions for me. TVs are not phones, and they're not gaming hardware. They're not... I don't think many people realize that people don't run out and buy new TVs every year. Hardcore gamers might. Maybe. There's probably a good niche. I'd say, I don't know. I'm not even know. Maybe 40% of us go out and get a new TV every 5 years. The majority of people don't buy new TVs unless their TVs break. And if you haven't followed TVs, the newer, thinner, flat screens that are less than $500, those things are made so well, they last a long time. So I'm not saying that putting all of your bets into 4K is a bad idea. I am saying that I really would have liked to have had an entire generation of games that were all 1080p 60 frames before they went off to a new resolution.
Hey, right.
I would have liked to have had a full generation of actual just games before we went off to a new resolution and a new standard. The arms race kind of scares me a bit. And I mean, if you have a 4K TV, I could see how you could seek this out. I do feel like Microsoft made the bold claim that nobody will get left behind, that everybody will be here, and they're going to have this huge backwards compatibility, and it's a believable claim because of what they did with 360. Sure. I feel like PlayStation's going to do that as well. I feel like they're going to do it as best they can, but I do wonder, when you have such a different power standard, what that is going to look like on the end product. Like, yeah, I'm going to be able to play Horizon, but am I playing the crappy version of Horizon to the point where I don't want to play it anymore? Or, I kind of look at it more like this. They showed Horizon during this conference, and it looked great. Her hair looked amazing. Some great flowing hair. But Horizon looked great a year ago when I saw it on the standard PlayStation 4 hardware. So, if there's no incentive, like if you're going to support me on my current PlayStation 4 or my current Xbox One, it's not just an PlayStation thing. If you're going to support all the games, if Gears of War 5 is going to run on my Xbox One, I do honestly feel like, I'm not going to buy a TV just to upgrade. Like, that's just not going to happen. That's an expense way more than I'm willing to do. So what is the incentive for me to upgrade? The only correlation I can make is the new 3DS. That's the only iterative hardware that I can really think that I've bought. I upgraded to the new 3DS because it had exclusive games. It ran them better. The operating system was faster. The load times were faster. We still have load times in games. Like, I just kind of wish both companies would make the games better. How about we get rid of the load times? How about we go 1080p 60? How about we worry about that instead of just brighter reds and darker blacks? I don't know. I don't really care about that. That's not really in my thing. As my weekly update suggested, dude, I played a bunch of 3DS games this week. I didn't even know if the resolution of 3DS is 480p. I don't care. I like looking at it. It looks fine. I enjoy playing the game, and that's all I care about. I am concerned on the development side, which is the thing that I've brought up this entire conversation of iterative hardware over the last year, is I'm concerned with how many more games are delayed more because they now have to support Pro mode and a base mode, and a Scorpio mode and a base mode, and Xbox One S mode and a base mode and a Scorpio mode. Just buy a PC. Like, what's stopping it? Like, Jason, why don't we all just buy computers? We'll just all buy computers with Titan cards in it, and we'll just be done with this.
People don't like to upgrade. They don't like to have to deal with components and specs and then troubleshooting it when it ultimately doesn't work. Well, typically on a console, you can just push a button and it goes, okay, here's your game. So that won't happen.
But we are upgrading. If you're telling me every 2.5 years I got to spend $400 to play the game,
yeah, but you just buy a box. You don't have to rip open a box and then put things in and attach cables.
I don't do that anyway. I mean, I just buy a really good PC and play that as long as I can. I've never upgraded actual hardware, but I get what you're saying. The last thing, because I really want to hear Kyle's thoughts on it. The last thing I'll say is, dude, I didn't like the slim design. You can obviously understand what I don't like about the Pro's design. Why they just won't make it a box? Why does it have to look like a triple layer cake or a double cheeseburger? Like, just at that point, because they were talking about, like, all right, with the slim, it's going to be smaller and all that. If you're going to make it that big, just make it a box. Just do a box, just squared edges. Like, why does it have to? I don't know. I care about the way my console looks. People say they don't because they plug it into their TV centers. I still don't. I don't necessarily 100% believe that. I think when you look back at hardware sales over time, better looking hardware sells better. You cannot tell me that GameCube wasn't hindered because it was purple and was a cube with a handle on it. Like, I think there is something to that, even if it's subconscious. I like when my hardware looks good, and PlayStation, for that matter, PlayStation has been nailing it. The PS3 Slim, awesome. The Vita, awesome. The PS4 OG, beautiful. These two models, they missed the mark for me.
You don't like
Dottie,
the. Go ahead, Kyle.
I love that Dottie is really cares a lot about what the console looks like, but doesn't care two craps about what the games look like.
I don't want to say I don't care two craps. So I get what you're saying, and that is a valid point. But I think saying I don't care. I've admitted it before. I love when a game is pretty, but a game doesn't have to be 21,000 pixels to be pretty. A game can be pretty at 480 pixels, 1280 pixels, 720 pixels, and 2100 pixels. Like, there is no amount of pixels that makes a game pretty. A game, just because it's 1200 pixels versus 500 pixels, doesn't mean it's automatically prettier. That's not the correlation there. There's a lot that goes into graphics above and beyond native resolution output.
I know, Donnie. It just sounded funny.
No, I get it. It's valid. That was a valid rebuttal. It's just, I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts, Kyle. I've been waiting all week to hear your thoughts on this conference.
Jason, do you want to go first? Because I have a lot to say.
Oh, I don't have anything much really more to say than what I already alluded to. But I will say, Donnie has got me with his distaste for the size. I'm going to call it the PlayStation 4 Gillette Mach 3 Turbo.
That is exactly what they should have called it.
That's a good name.
Triple the blades.
So here, man, I'm going to try to sum this up as quickly as I can because I know we're going
Kyle,
really long. Yeah.
I want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Does it make the load...
It hasn't even started.
I know. Does it make the load times, the OS, does it do anything to make any of that better?
No.
It doesn't.
I don't know.
Well, load times might be, but
load
the
times
OS,
might
no.
be. Oh, and the OS might be a little snappier. It depends on how much is dedicated to it. Anyway,
Can I make folders?
Yeah, you will be able to with the new update. You'll be able to make folders. Okay, so I know Nathan really, really wanted to be on this podcast, mostly because I think he wanted to make fun of me and make me cry. But let me get out of the way of saying, number one, I have been very sad this week. Not necessarily because of the meeting, because it was a meeting. It was going to be dry. But, man, it's weeks like this that I am sometimes bummed to be a video game person, because I really want people to enjoy their stuff. Like, I really want Nathan and Mo and Q to love their Xboxes. And I really, really hope Donnie loves the NX. Like, I want people to enjoy their things. And it seems like most gamers, and I shouldn't even say most, some gamers who are very vocal get more enjoyment out of watching the other people who like something be miserable than they do get out of the thing itself, like their thing. So I'm just really kind of bummed about all of those things. And not saying Nathan is that way, but I got a lot of that, and I know he has a lot of strong feelings on this system. I do think not having a 4K Blu-ray player is a mistake. Plain and simple. Even as a Sony guy, I think that was a mistake on their part to not have that. Now, I will say, I do think the importance of that is being overstated a little bit. Because I have one question to ask the three of you that I want to get your response to really quick. I used to work at a movie rental place until June. It was a part-time job I had. When we got new movies in, we would say we got 100 copies of a movie. What do you think, say Star Wars, we got Star Wars, what do you think the percent split was between DVD and Blu-ray?
I wouldn't even know how to guess. I mean...
how long ago?
The last Star Wars that came out.
I'm going to go 70-30 in favor of DVD.
See, I would flip that. I would go 70-30 in favor of Blu-ray at this point.
I think more people have DVD players than
I think that it's going to be heavier on DVD as well. Would be my...
Yeah, Donnie is pretty much spot on.
70 really? When I was at Best Buy, people were buying way more Blu-rays. Like, we barely sold any DVDs at all.
Think of the Best Buy customer versus...
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Versus rental.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the big thing is I think there is a hardcore audience who is going to be upgrading, who's going to be doing these things, that they're going to look at the Neo, or the Pro, excuse me, and be like, well, why the heck doesn't this have this? That is a small percentage of the people this holiday season who are standing in the store and saying, okay, I'm getting my kid a PS4. Do I get them the Slim or do I get them this Pro model? Most of those people don't really care what kind of DVD player it has. Again, let me reiterate, I think it's a mistake that they don't have that in there. But I think for the average consumer who is not us, they probably don't care that much. I think Donnie's stats, Yeah, I think Donnie's stats, I don't know when that Business Insider article came from. The last one I saw was that by 2018, it was going to be about 15% of homes were going to have 4K televisions. But even so, like HDR TVs have HDR TVs have only been out for like the last 6 to 9 months that they've been really consumer available. So it's kind of one of those things that, yes, 4K is being adopted faster than HD TV was, but that is still a very slow process for them. And just like, from my experiences working, in renting movies to people, most people have no idea or don't care at all about the quality of their picture, whether this will run on that. Like, they don't care about that stuff. There is a hardcore segment that absolutely does. I think the messaging and how they did everything at the conference was missed the boat with those people. And I think they were trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice. They did the presentation at the same place that they did the original PlayStation 4 presentation. I think they thought, hey, we're doing this, let's capture lightning in a bottle twice, and it just didn't work. Donnie alluded to it a little bit earlier. One thing that nobody could really answer after the conference was like, okay, this is cool, well, how powerful is this thing? It's more than twice as powerful as the current PlayStation 4. Most people are like, no idea that that's even true. Yep. Like, you could duct tape 2 PlayStation 4s together, and they would be less powerful than this new system. But it would look just like it. It would look just like it, but it would be less powerful. So I think there's definitely an increase there. And I mean, yes, Microsoft jumped all over them, which they should have. And Sony's response to it was kind of snarky of, well, people aren't going to be able to watch, 4K movies on your, 4K DVDs or Blu-rays on your system. And Sony's response was like, well, that's right, because they're going to be playing video games on it. But I think
you're right. I think I want to chime in on the Blu-ray thing. You're absolutely right. I don't think it's as big a deal as people are making it out on Twitter and people we follow. However, it's a low-hanging fruit. It was something that Sony overlooked or chose not to do that now they're getting hit over the head for.
Yes.
And if they just put it in there, and the cost difference couldn't have been worth the PR that they're losing now.
Right. And, like I said, I think it was a mistake, but I think in the long run, it's not. And I honestly, in many ways, feel like, and they didn't talk about this a lot, I feel like the system is really geared at people who maybe they already have a 4K TV, maybe are looking at getting one, but especially people who are looking at getting VR. I really feel like, and they didn't focus on it a lot.
That's the problem with that. If you
I know.
Take that stance. The problem is they barely said anything.
I know, but I feel like, because I don't have a 4K television. I would like to get one this fall, and depending on if we end up moving or not, I might be able to get one. But, I can't afford the Pro and a 4K television and PSVR this fall. There's no way. I can't do all of those things. So I feel like you kind of have to pick and choose. Yeah, I feel like it was a bit of an unforced error. I do think that by getting it out now, when Scorpio comes out in a year, I think they're going to try to compete by having it be the far lower priced option. There is definitely concerns because, if I were to buy one, I could stream 4K. Well, other people could stream 4K Netflix. I never could because my internet sucks way too much. So I couldn't do that. So I get the streaming 4K thing. It's hard to do that for most people still. There are some who can. But unless you have Google Fiber, streaming 4K is really hard to do. So
I also, in this article, just to touch on that, it also mentions that there's no TV stations that are currently planning on programming 4K distribution before 2020.
Nope, not at all. And
it's too expensive.
So that's where I really think that this is, I don't want to say it was an unforced error, but I don't necessarily know if this was needed, in the sense that it is definitely a big increase, and it is definitely a niche boutique product for a certain population of people. But I think that population isn't even a majority of gamers. I still think it's even a small percentage of gamers. That for the vast majority of people, what is now the base model PS4 is still going to be your go-to system. And you know what? If you're hey, I really want 4K Blu-ray capability and I want to be able to watch that, then you know what? I guess get an Xbox One. I mean, even as a PlayStation guy, that is absolutely a better option if that is what you want to do. It is the way for you to go there. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems almost like I don't want to say unforced. I'm hoping. So, go ahead. Sorry. I'm all over the place with my thoughts,
let me help you here, because I had something that I heard, and I bet you've heard this too, because I know you and I listen to a lot of the same podcasts. It feels like Xbox outflanked them, doesn't it?
Well,
it really feels like they came out and dropped something that Sony wasn't expecting, and it was too late for them to steer off the course.
I think that's definitely a possibility. I think I don't know, and like I said, I have nothing to support this, just in my gut. I feel like this was really geared when they were starting to work on VR, that they realized they need something more powerful. So this was going to be that more powerful thing, and I think they got outflanked in the sense of they assumed that Microsoft would come out with something new, but not at where it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft,
you know, like,
to their credit, and I think it's because of their ability to, and we still haven't seen it yet, so let's take it with a grain of salt, but their promise that they're going to not blow out the generation, they're going to keep everybody together, but their new console is a new generation spec hardware. I mean, it's way better. It's not a little bit better. It's a ton better. It's a huge leap. Right. I look at Xbox and they were like, we're getting our butts handed to us, and instead of doing the Nintendo thing where they just sat on the Wii U for 5 years and took it on the chin, they just pulled the plug. Yep. They're like, fine, we'll just go to the next one.
Yep, they are starting a new console generation. They're not calling it that, but that is what they are doing. They have moved on. They're going to their next generation, which is fine. I think the one thing that's going to be really interesting about this, though, is when we look at sales numbers moving forward, because sales numbers aren't going to mean anything anymore. In the sense that, are they really going to separate PS4 Slim from PS4 Pro? No, they're going to say, here's how many PS4s we've sold. Like, they're not, I'm assuming that they're not saying, starting over with Xbox One S, saying, oh, we've now sold 3 or 5 millions of these. Like, I feel like they're just going to, and maybe they won't, but I feel like they're just going to add on to the number of Xbox One sold.
They will, yeah.
And then it's like, well, how many of those people, and this is true for PlayStation too, how many of those people are actually new purchasers? How many of those people have traded in and upgraded? How accurate is that? Like, I feel like clearly Xbox is going to win August because of the S coming out, and probably the rest of the year, to be honest. Maybe not November, depending on what the deals look like. But, I just think that sales numbers are going to be so not an accurate measure of where the generation is at. And for me, it really comes down to play the console that you like, that has the best exclusives for you, So
that's the thing that makes me the most upset, is they had this meeting, right? And it's an event that they, not only did they have it, they promoted it. I want to say up like a month, beforehand. And they showed games that we knew were coming, but they didn't show any games that were coming soon. They didn't show anything that was coming. Like right now, like, the new PS4 is coming. Is there a new game coming with it? Nope. Did they show you a game that's coming with it soon? Nope. What'd they show us? They showed us a game that's coming in February, and then a bunch of games that aren't coming, that we have no idea when they're coming. And based on
games that came out a long time ago.
Yeah, and based on that track record, we don't know when those games are coming at all. I mean, it's like, it feels weird to watch an event about a gaming company where they show us hardware, no games. And I don't want to say no games. I know people are crazy excited about Mass Effect, but I mean, no games. Like, when you launch hardware, I need a game right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, PS4 Killzone, see it? That's why you need it. New 3DS Xenoblade, see it? That's why you need it. There's none of that. It was just like, hey, it's a better piece of hardware that can play the games that you currently already have. And why would I buy it?
It felt like their launch title is the new Call of Duty. Like, that is their launch game, is the new Call of Duty, because it and Modern Warfare...
it is. I mean, they come out at the same time, so...
Yep. So...
And it's smart for them to align themselves with Call of Duty. And I've mentioned before on this podcast, I'm super excited for Call of Duty. I think it looks great. I didn't think that demo looked any better than, like it didn't. That demo didn't belong. And I think the ultimate problem here is 4K looks great. I've seen 4K TVs in person. I get it. It looks beautiful. Does it look so beautiful that I feel like I need to go spend $1,000 to get there? It doesn't. I don't see. They compared the leap. Even at the meeting, they said this is the SD to HD leap. It's not. It's not that leap.
No, it's not.
It's not that leap at all. It's just like it's like putting on glasses. Like, everything is sharper and better, but it's not like different. SD to HD was different. That was a game changer. I don't see 4K as a game changer. I do, and that's not to. I don't want to sound down on 4K. I do see we will all eventually move to 4K because it's the better one, but because it's not such a drastic leap, the transition is going to be a slow burn. You have to wait for people's TVs to crap out, for them to, I don't know, get extra money or bonuses and splurge. It's not going to be something where, like, I felt that I had to get an HD TV last generation. I was like, I've got to get one. Like, I'm not even doing good on this console because I have this SD old TV. Like, I felt compelled to get one. I had to buy a TV. What they're showing me with 4K, I don't feel like I need one.
Yeah, I think, and the last thing I'll say, because I know we're going super long, is that, I wish PlayStation, and honestly Microsoft, had a lot of, like what you were saying before, Donnie, had not focused so hard on pushing this technology forward that is going to be for a very niche group of people, and just sat back for 2 or 3 years and reinvested in games and given us some really awesome games for the next 2 or 3 years, and then give us some super sweet 20 teraflops, whatever you want to do. I just, I think that both consoles, I think, a lot of people would argue Xbox has had the better exclusives thus far, and I can see that. They're not my preference, but I definitely think they've had some good ones. But I don't think we have had the stellar games yet that we had previous generation.
100%.
And I worry that the focus has become on cool, shiny, awesome-looking stuff, not cool, awesome games that I'm going to remember the rest of my life. So
I would say this generation has been almost defined by indie titles.
Absolutely.
Both companies' exclusives have been good, but I mean, you look last gen, we had not just one entry, we had trilogies of great games.
Yep.
We haven't even come close to that. We haven't got sequels yet, and they're already talking about launching new hardware.
Yep, absolutely.
It's true. All right, so we will wrap up the news then, essentially, because this was pretty much all the news that came out this week, except for that one tidbit Kyle mentioned earlier about Sony putting the kibosh on mod support for Fallout and Skyrim, which makes me pretty darn angry.
It's been a really good week for Sony, hasn't it?
Yeah, what a great week for that to come out.
Yeah,
I don't really do mods because they're really hard to do in PC and support them in drivers, and that's what we have Lacey for. He's our resident expert on that. But the mods that I've seen on videos are really awesome in Skyrim, and it sucks that people aren't going to get them.
Yep, and we all know how much I love Fallout, so the fact that I'm not going to be able to spend even more time on top of the 100+ hours I've got in on it already to get more of my money's worth, but c'est la vie. But Sony, you're not winning me over here, man. Between the Nintendo news and the NX coming up, I might be spending more time with my Nintendo products until some good games come out. But so we're going to wrap up the show then, and we'll get back to the standard format next week. But before we go, boys and girls, it's time to do our plug. So, Kyle, anything you'd like to mention before we leave?
Not really. Just, if you still have any faith in Sony, follow me. Become my friend on PSN at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. You can also follow me on Twitter there. We can, join together in our sadness and defend ourselves against the onslaught of hate coming from the other side.
Fair enough. And don't forget to check out Kyle's review of Oceanhorn on the website if you haven't already, as well as his review done quick on YouTube. Jason, anything you'd like to mention?
Check out Kevin's review of Juton, however you want to pronounce it. Jotun, many different
ways. That's how I've been saying it. I've been calling it Jotun.
because it's a good game, and it's up on the PSVG site. I have one little blurb in there. Totally worth it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want a podcast with more profanity and even more less informed opinions or less educated opinions, you can listen to my podcast Flux to Post over at fluxtopost.com. And we just released was it last week, I think? Yeah, a new Battle of the Beer, where we answer the age-old question: can you tell the difference between a beer that's in a can and beer that's in a bottle? It's fun. It's edutainment. But only for those responsible of legal drinking consent. 21 and up, please.
Wow, Jason with the PSA right there.
That's right.
Donnie, you're up.
Kyle, before we close, can you imagine if The Last Guardian is bad? Feel really bad fall, man.
I have a feeling it's going to be a letdown.
Here's what I could say. Part of this, this is going to sound really bad.
God, they need that to hit big.
I know, but part of me like is kind of happy about this because there was something about being a PlayStation fan when everything sucked, and you're like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And then things got really good, and it's almost like Sony was like, we don't know what to do with this. This is too hard. Let's just suck a little bit again. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening right now.
Well, to make things lighter, I get my Vita this week, and I just downloaded like an hour's worth of stuff. My PS3 has been on for 2 days, just downloading all of my Vita collection that I can't wait to play again. So I'll be come play with Hot Shots with me on Vita, man.
Because you can't download it on your PS4 and transfer it to your Vita. You have to
because the Vita is not registered as a recognized device on PlayStation.
Oh gosh.
Is that an addition for the Pro?
Oh man. Wow, what fun. Follow us on Twitter at PSVG. It worked really hard to get that. If you already follow us, as Jason or as Kevin already mentioned, don't worry about it. Everything's taken care of. You're good. Come follow me at Play Nintendo if you hate my opinions on NX or PlayStation or Xbox or whatever. Come talk to me. I love debating. I've had a lot of fun debating folks all week.
All right, then. So to wrap it up, just make sure you visit the website at playsomevideogames.com. Check out all the reviews. As we mentioned, Oceanhorn and Juton are up on the site, as well as our YouTube channel. Make sure you click a subscribe there. Every subscription counts, and we've just been working hard to make sure we get our reviews done quick, published for all the reviews we've done so far. So we're still working on the back catalog a little bit, but going forward, we'll always have that feature. Make sure to like us on Facebook if you have not already, facebook.com/playsomevideogames. Other than that, I think that covers everything. You can follow me on Twitter if you want. I don't tweet too much, but who knows? At PSVG Kevin. And I think that's it, boys and girls. So, never stop game.
Thank you for listening to Play Some Video Games, the official podcast.
You guys just hear me screaming for the last 5 seconds?
No.
Then it's working.
So we would have said something. Way to test that, though. Imagine if that didn't work and you just, like, blowing our eardrums out.
That's why I was sitting here. I was like, hello! Can't you hear this?
That would have been a good post-show soundbite.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Donnie's wife and kids in the background come running in the room. What's wrong?
Now they're mad because I always make them turn off all of their streaming devices when we podcast.
So
they always yell at me. They're like, oh, do you have to do that now?
That was like me when I used to play in my online hockey league. It's like, nope, you're not watching Netflix. Gotta play goalie. EA screws me over enough. I don't need your help.